which just keeps adding every single day. As you can see here, I think what have we got here? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think the past 12 days, 11 of them have been up. And as I said, for the year as a whole, this is the 56th, I think, record high of all history. And there you go. Makes sense. Seasonality, widespread optimism. I mean, it's just it's beyond belief. The cubes, same deal, lifetime high. They had been lagging a couple of weeks ago, but they have definitely caught up. Unlike the spider and the diamonds, they had peaked back on the 11th and really didn't push that aside until just yesterday. Lifetime high yesterday, another lifetime high today above this former peak, right? Like so. Globally, it's still pretty lackluster. You know, as you know, the U.S. both this year and last year were the champs of the world in terms of equity gains. EFA is still stalled out at this horizontal line, which is a price gap, 79.87. We got up to 79.87 yesterday, and okay, we got a penny higher than that today. So let's just get this right. It's 1 penny higher, but it's still just kind of sitting there. You can see that this ascending wedge has been damaged. And I know it's hard to believe, if anybody starts to sell, I think this is going to lead the way because this is far more vulnerable than the US markets are. Mexico, which understandably had a post-election drop, has recovered over the past week. But it has a mountain of overhead supply here. So I think, this was the easy part. It's going to be much more formidable test to cut through this kind of overhead supply. So this is probably about the exhaustion point for Mexico bouncing. It also happens to be a really nice head and shoulders top. So it would not be out of the question to see a meaningful drop away from this pattern. Oil is sinking. And I mentioned a couple of days ago about energy being on my radar again for bearish positions. XOP worked out nicely. XP had a nice drop today. Here's some individual items which are very well formed. This is Occidental OXY. This is the basis of the top, and we've got a nice 3% plus tumble on Oxy. Murphy Oil, almost identically the same percentage. Here's the initial top, and we're even starting to chip away at this level right like here, which if that gives way, well, it's just nothing but air beneath that top. And one other, Halliburton, almost 3%, for literally years here, just grinding away at these levels, and range bound like so, relatively speaking, stronger than some of the ones you just saw, but still energy sector overall is definitely slippery today. Now, I'm still wringing my hands about precious metals because gold, to me, seems in a not good position to lift from these levels, whereas silver, one could argue, could. And as I said yesterday, I can't really see one going one way and the other going the other way. They tend to hold hands and go in the same direction, although with different levels of energy. Gold has been just grinding away at these levels. And if it starts to weaken, first level of meaningful support would be the top of this channel, which it's broken up. Silver is having a good day. I mean, the front month is up over 1%, and SLV is up almost 1%, and it has held nicely above this trend line. Higher highs, higher lows, has completed this very good looking pattern. And if this holds, the target on SLV is way up here, which would be a pretty substantial lift. But it would feel a little nicer to get a really good price on it. So gold could lead for a brief sojourn lower to make that happen. But really low confidence in terms of what's going to happen short term. Long term, feeling very good about both of them. I'd also made mention a couple of days ago about these long-term bearish patterns which had seen recent strength, which I felt would resume their weakness, and that's working out all right. Here's one of them. I mentioned this is a favorite, ADM, Archer Daniels Midland, down today almost 3%. This was the giant top. This was the sort of offspring of that, a miniature version. And as we zoom in here, we have this big bounce higher, big reversal yesterday, continued to drop today. Let's neaten this up a little bit. One I'm particularly interested in, and which I don't think I've ever traded in my life until today, is Cracker Barrel. Now, I've mentioned it here a bunch of times because it's a really fascinating chart. Very, very long term. Obviously, it's done quite well. But for the past literally 6 years, it has been really turning the tide lower. So this was the first top here, which was this big plunge. That was the COVID crash. But afterward, unlike a lot of stocks, it did not push to lifetime high. Well, actually, it did push to a lifetime high, but it was very brief. It did not. If you look post-COVID crash on most stocks, be they restaurants or techs or what have you, they left those lows way in the dust. Here, Cracker Barrel basically repeated where it had been prior to the COVID crash, and then began executing this series of tops, which each one lower than the prior. So we had, this was the initial one here, then another, then another, then another. And I wasn't really watching for this, but it happens that they had earnings this morning, very well received, big bounce in the stock. And I looked at this long-term pattern and said, you know, I think some long-term puts on that might be interesting. So I went and got January 2026 puts. Obviously, SCAD's time, like, 13 months on those. And this worked out so far it's worked out pretty quickly because I got them when the stock was pretty lofty, and it's been reversing away. So we are down over 2% on Cracker Barrel in spite of very good earnings and a very well-received report earlier in the day. But this is not a one-day play. I'd be thrilled if we could eventually work our way down to this major supporting trend line. But yeah, that's the first for me at least. And here's CC. You've seen a bunch of times. This is also, I've also got a 2026 puts on this, and slowly but surely it's working its way lower, down today about 2% in spite of lifetime highs across the board everywhere else. Semiconductors continue to be almost all you even have to think about. NVIDIA having a strong day, up almost 4%. It has just had green after green after green. Today, particularly strong, strongest day we've seen since here. And until such time as this thing stops ascending, it's going to drag the SMH along with it. I'm not touching, nor have I touched NVIDIA. I'm still focused on other items, specifically AMD, which, yes, is up, but about a third as much as NVIDIA. And more importantly, look what's going on with the trend line here. Not a single pixel crossing over. It's close. It's a little scary, but has not crossed. It has respected the line as resistance. ARM Holdings is up not quite 1%. And red candlestick here, which just as a reminder, doesn't mean the stock is up. Down, just because it's red. It simply means that the present price is lower than the opening price. Thus, it's red. But you can have a huge update and still have a red candlestick. Sticking with that, I actually just before the camera clicked on, I also went back into small SMH puts March position with that. Now, I've said many times that if SpaceX were public, it would be probably hotter than NVIDIA. It would be just smoking hot stock. It is not. Elon knows that being a public company is not a bed of roses, and so he's very deliberately kept SpaceX private. And I believe it's the largest private company on the planet, I think. Because it's not public, people have been searching for anything that even smells close to SpaceX to get their SpaceX yayas out. And that's worked well for a while, but these aren't SpaceX. These are other companies that just happen to have rockets. This is Intuitive Machines, which have been just going gangbusters, and it peaked out here over 17 a couple of days ago. And as you can see, it slumped very sharply since then. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's a pretty big percentage drop. So LUNR sinking, and Virgin Galactic, which just have been the most doggy of dog stocks for the longest time, having gone from, on a reverse split adjusted basis, over $1,000 to a few dollars, like a 99.970% drop. Even that had been trying to recover, but it's kind of sputtering out. So it's too bad. SpaceX would be I don't think SpaceX would look at anything like these, but yeah, as I said, these aren't SpaceX, so it doesn't work. There are some cool younger stocks that have hammered out some good looking bullish patterns. Just to review a few of these, so it's not all bear type stuff. No particular order. This is DocuSign, DOCU. And this chart pretty much speaks for itself. You can see what's tinted and highlighted there. We've got PayPal, PYPL, which I've mentioned multiple times over the past couple of months, and it just keeps on keeping on. And we're up over 5% on PayPal today. Here's Rivian. And this one, a little hesitant on this because the prior basing patterns, they produce good results, but they do tend to sputter out, as you can see. Now, we've hardly even got it started here. So, and I know this is not chart-based, but I say again, I just think there's a big niche for the electric trucks that Tesla's completely left alone, that Rivian seems to own completely. So it seems to me that they've got a prospectively good future. Grab Holdings has pushed over that big green base there. This one is an odd one because this has been just mired in scandal and accusations and all sorts of nasty investigations, and it doesn't seem to matter. Maybe there's nothing to them. But Roblox has a huge base here. This may be the best looking one of all of these because this base has been hammered out all of 2022, 2023, 2024, and it's just starting to emerge above it. So this could be a very good stock for 2025. And then this is probably my least favorite of these, not because it's not doing well, but because it's the least juicy opportunity. It's right near lifetime highs right now, and it's a very young stock, not much to go on. But Reddit, RDDT, pushing up nicely. It came public back in March, and it has tripled since then. So very, very big success with Reddit. Jumping to a very different sector, XLU is kind of fascinating what's happened here because we had done a little base here. We pushed above it on the 26th, and we get higher, lifetime high there. But look what's happened since then. Just a complete flop. Not quite sure what that means. Not quite sure if it's telling us something in terms of interest rate changes coming, but that is an interesting bullish failure right there. And in turn, our old favorite NEE, Next Era, this one at the same time didn't have a lifetime high. It simply went pushing up against all this overhead supply, and it too has slumped badly downward. So kind of just an interesting side note about what's going on with utilities. So I'm going to end with the same symbol I've ended on for 3 days in a row here, which is SMH. I just can't overstate the importance of this. I do believe that this is kind of the make or break item for continued Nasdaq strength. And we are still, for the moment, and this could change to the open tomorrow, we're still below that broken trend line.